Hey, good afternoon. My name is Matthew Pelkey. I am a professor with the University of Arkansas at Monticello College of Forestry, Agriculture, and Natural Resources. I'm also the director of the Arkansas Forest Business Center. We're here today on an 82-acre site. As you can see, it has been cut over about a year and a half ago, and we're replanting it today. You can see it looks fairly dry, and there's still some slash piles out there and some tops that are rotting down, breaking, and returning the nutrients to the soil. So we're having a hand planting crew come in because they can get in and around all of these piles of slash that we see here. So what are we doing today in terms of planting? Well, let's start off with the seedling. This seedling comes from the Weyerhaeuser Tree Nursery in Magnolia, Arkansas. It's a loblolly pine seedling. It's what we call a third generation seedling. And by third generation, it means that foresters went out and found what they saw was superior trees in the woods. And they harvested seed from those trees and planted them into a seed orchard. And those trees grew in the seed orchard, and then the best trees of that first seed orchard were crossed with each other to produce a second generation seed orchard. And that was done yet another time where the best trees from the second generation seed orchard were crossed with each other and planted. And then this is a seedling that comes from basically 3 generations of tree improvement by selection. So it's not genetically modified, it's a wholly natural tree. We've just tried to get trees that had the best growth characteristics, the most disease resistant, the ones that don't fork and have a nice compact crown. So that's what we're after. And so that's what Weyerhaeuser has delivered to us today. We're going to be planting on a 10-foot by 10-foot spacing, which is about 435 trees to the acre. That's actually more than we really need for final harvest. But what's going to happen with those 435 trees, we're going to harvest about a third of them, a third to a half of them at age 15, so about 15 years from now. We'll harvest a third of them, maybe as much as a half. Then in another 6 or 7 years, we'll thin and we'll get some small saw timber out of that second thinning. That first thinning that we'll do at age 12 to 15 will largely get pulpwood or energy wood, which can be used for creating bioenergy, wood pellets, small saw timber at age 20 typically, and some more bioenergy and pulpwood for paper. And then by about age 27, this tree is going to be a saw timber sized tree. It'll probably be about 14 to 16 inches in diameter. It will weigh probably, in terms of the merchantable timber in it, it will weigh probably about 2 to 2.5 tons and have a value somewhere between anywhere from $40 to $75, depending on what timber prices are at the time. And of course, as an economist, that's always one of the challenges. We're planting trees that won't be finally harvested until 30 years from now. So analysis of the markets for these trees is something that's very challenging to do. So let's talk about planting this tree. This tree has a root length somewhere around 6 to 7 inches. The root collar is right about here. We see live branches starting here. So when we want to plant this tree, we want to plant it right at the root collar, not too deep, not too shallow, so it will grow properly. To plant this, we're going to plant with a tree planting dibble. And I want to demonstrate something as I put the first hole in for the tree planting dibble here. I'm going to pick a spot, I'm going to push the dibble in with my foot, and I'm going to bring it back about 3 or 4 inches, basically to create a gap. Now notice on that dibble, we've got very wet soil. It looks dry out here, but the soil is very wet, good moisture conditions, and you can see that that dibble goes down far enough that we're going to be able to get the hole is going to fit this tree. So again, I'm going to put a hole in for planting. I'm going to pull back. Now I'm actually going to plant this tree. And the important thing when I plant it is to make sure that the roots are not turned around on a jag. Can't just stick it down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place it into that hole, and then as far as I can go, and then pull it back up to where the root collar is. Now it's in a loose hole, so I'll put the dibble bar back down in next to it, and I'll push it forward to seal that tree in. And then I'll put my boot down to just firmly seal that hole so it's all sealed in. There's no air pockets down there. That tree's root system is in full contact with the soil, and that tree's ready to grow. And so we see a stump here in the background. This This tree was probably 30 years old, maybe 35 years old when we cut it. This tree will be as big as this one in 26 to 27 years. That's the advantage of those third generation seedlings. They cost a little bit more. They cost actually about twice as much as regular seedlings that are unimproved, but they're going to give us such a faster growth rate that the economics of it, it makes it worthwhile to the landowner to do that. So we see in this slash pile, what we have is we can see that the planters have actually planted right up to it, and in some cases into this slash pile, but all of this biomaterial is going to rot down, be broken down by termites and fungi and bacteria, and the nutrients are going to be returned to this site. So the advantage of not burning this slash or removing it is that we keep the site fertilized. We keep the natural fertilizers here, and actually when we harvest the bole wood, the logs that we actually manufacture into wood products, most of the nutrients aren't in that wood. They're in the bark, and they're in the branches, and they're in the needles, which we leave out on the site. So we don't need often to fertilize in forestry, or the amount of fertilization we do is a lot less than we see in other types of agriculture.